Alan, Jamie, and good morning to everybody. I don't know if all of you get to see this or if Alan happens to play this, but there was a couple really important things I didn't mention in my chat with you guys yesterday that I think would have been really important. I know there was a lot to cover, but it had to do with the treatment plan, and it was, again, in terms of just tips that I've used to manage and try to fight some of the battles and issues that I have with my mental illness, was music. Brief background: my mom was a piano teacher and a wonderful singer, and I grew up, in addition to the world of art and sports, music was a big part of my life. I sang all throughout grade school, junior high, high school, even into college. And one of the things that I ended up figuring out early on in my life that I don't think I realized was helping me with some of the challenges I face today was I used music in a way to escape, but also to really prayerfully visualize and try to think about and get through some of the issues that I was facing. Now, I think for everybody, we all, music is a big part of many people's lives, and it's a fun way, and obviously a part of our culture and part of the human experience. But I think specifically, and let me tell you what I listen to, guys. I got caught on scores. So, basically, instrumental, classical soundtracks to movies and things like that. I early on listened to all the normal classics like Beethoven and stuff like that. And I listened to all the 90s grunge and hard rock and Christian music, which I listen to a bunch today, so that's clearly another one. So earlier on, I really was using a lot of this soundtrack music to sort of let me sort of meditate and think through what was going on, and often help me to translate some of those depression and the thoughts I was experiencing into something that was positive. And in the process of this, the Holy Spirit became very prevalent and very prominent in a way that I did not really realize until a few years ago, and it would have been right around my divorce for those that I shared this with. I had not used music in a way to work with my emotions and truly help heal me, and I went back to that. And actually the first musical score I was listening to was Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe. And for those that know about this, Russell Crowe had schizophrenia, and the way the movie depicts mental illness, in my opinion, has been one of the best I've ever seen. The next closest one would be Silver Linings Playbook. I think that's the name of it. But with Russell Crowe, it's an example of someone that is an absolute pure genius, but struggles with demons and things, and it's his lifelong journey to manage that. So the music is very, very, I think it's by James Horner, and it's absolutely wonderful, and it's sort of deep, sort of melodic meaning of getting you to feel. If you allow yourself to really think about it and sort of meditate and think about, does that music connect with you? So this is when I started to do this again, guys. I started to really use music as a means of helping me cope and allowing me to sort of prayerfully get connected to God, where I could intimately talk with Him as I was dealing with this. Because in order to get down at that place, it was kind of scary, and I think the music became an insulation, a buffer that allowed me to grapple with some of this stuff without getting stuck in the land of untruth. So I'm convinced by all means that this was a method that changed my life, in conjunction with pop culture Christian music, which my wife introduced me to. But the scores have been dear to my heart, and it's everything from The Beautiful Mind that I've shared to Narnia is very, very good. I've listened to Hoosiers, Rocky. I've talked a lot about my sort of the way I've embodied, the way I mentally depict fighting my illness is I'm fighting. And I'm fighting with God by my side and the legions of angels that are with Him, and I wear His armor, and that is ultimately what I must wear. And it's the progression of making sure that when I fall down and I'm not wearing that anymore, I've got to be able to get back up and use Christ to help me regain my footings and ultimately have my armor back on. So I think that was I mean, I can tell you on and on. I've got all these songs. I mean, for whatever reason, Batman has really resonated with me, and it's not in this cheesy way, but the music is absolutely breathtaking. Hans Zimmer is the one that does the music for that. He also does the movie for Gladiator. So again, for me, my choice of what I've done is to use music for different moods, and ultimately for ones that let me depict how I'm going to fight this fight with God's help. And I can't count enough. I just was reminded of it this morning as I was listening to Beautiful Mind, and just after having some prayer from the night before and from this morning, and just meditating and thinking about, you know, what everybody experiences and just some stuff, I felt like that the music thing was such an integral part of my treatment strategy. I cannot share this enough. And in so many cases, the playlist that I've constructed of just the different scores and things that I have found and music that has really been created in such a way that lets me get back on my feet, and is as good a dose as, if I'm depressed, as some sort of like Ritalin dose. It's as good as, you know, something where I'm, you know, for those that may be reading a book, but that way of intimately connecting to God. And I mean, I guess for all those that have never tried that, I encourage you to. And if you want, I can kind of I've got a whole slew of songs, you know, kind of Christian, more specific, with lyrics and rock stuff and things that have been enlightening and inspirational. Revelation song is another one that I think of that's a really powerful one. Newsboys is a bunch of songs that I consider extremely dear and really, really motivational. So again, it isn't necessarily that all these got to do this rah-rah cheer stuff. I think it can do just as much as far as helping you feel like you're making progress, and you're taking responsibility for your mental health, and there's so many things you can do aside from that. So music, again, can't say enough how much this impacts me, and how I can see and I can visualize things as I'm going through horrific issues and pain, and how God appears in that, and God talks to me, and God is able to be right there. And, you know, I feel him, Jesus, hugging me when I'm in hell and in the pit. And I've talked a lot about my children, where we would use this visualization, and we talk about more in the sense they love listening to this stuff. I started sharing this music with them, and they love it because it's obviously superhero music, but in many cases it's symbolic of how they get back up. And I always tell them, you know, the way you get out of the no fun stuff when you don't feel very good is you use your Jesus armor, and you allow, in the adult way, you allow the Holy Spirit to be a part of you, and it gets inside of you, and it transforms you so that you're able to mentally feel well and have some relief from what you're experiencing. I think lastly, the thing, aside from music, is physical health. For those that do know me, and I've probably spoken with Dana and some of them in the group, is for the longest time I worked out religiously. Early on, it was because I was a little runt and I didn't like being small. So that was a big reason why I worked out. But as I got older, and especially when I started my first business, it was challenging because it was very stressful and very difficult and very frustrating and very scary, and all the things that happens with owning a business. I was mortified half the time, because in most cases when you start a business, no one is ever completely prepared. But the more important thing is, spiritually, this was a time where I was starting to grapple with some of my issues before they were diagnosed. And one of the things I realized was I would get completely just freaked out if I didn't get my workout in. And it seemed like this extremely selfish thing. As I got older, and especially even more recently, I've realized that was an important part of my treatment, and I didn't know it at the time. And this workout was a way that was spiritual. So this music methodology and this idea of using music was combined with my working out. So now what working out became is a spiritual exercise. And as I've gotten older, it's the time when I read the Bible too. So it is just like my time with God. It's my time to fight the fight. It's my time to get dialed in spiritually. It's been my time to exert frustration and time to try get back on the horse again. Everybody's different, but from all the things that I've ever read, the amount of the positive brain chemicals that are exerted, the increased levels of serotonin, I believe, is one of them. You do feel better, and it's a great thing to help manage and assist in your treatment strategy, and you feel better. I mean, you have more energy. There's a litany of benefits, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. I think just taking care of your physical health